The ultimatum came on a Tuesday morning while I was eating cereal and reading about another tech company going belly up. Anna stood in our kitchen doorway, arms crossed, wearing that particular expression that meant she'd already made up her mind about something I hadn't even heard yet. "I'm keeping Dean in my life," she announced, like she was discussing the weather. "Deal with it or leave." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I looked up from my cornflakes, milk dripping from my spoon. Dean. Her ex-boyfriend from college. The same Dean who'd been texting her at all hours for the past 3 months. The same Dean whose name made her face light up in ways mine hadn't for years. "Those are my only options?" I asked, keeping my voice level. After 12 years of marriage, I'd learned not to react immediately to Anna's pronouncements. She thrived on drama, and I'd stopped feeding that particular beast a long time ago. "Yes." She shifted her weight, probably expecting me to explode or beg. "I'm not giving him up, Nick. We have history." I set down my spoon and really looked at her. Anna Fowler, née Peterson, 35 years old, HR manager at Consolidated Insurance, beautiful in that polished way that required 2 hours of morning preparation. My wife, the woman I'd supported through business school, comforted through her father's death, celebrated with when she got her first management position, the woman who was now standing in our kitchen, in the house we'd bought together, telling me she was choosing another man. "I choose option 3, I said. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows drew together. "What?" "Option 3. I stood up, rinsed my bowl in the sink, and grabbed my laptop bag. "You gave me 2 choices. I'm picking the third one." "There is no third option, Nick." I paused at the kitchen door and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "There's always a third option, Anna. You just never bothered to look for it." I left her standing there, confusion replacing the smug certainty on her face. For the first time in months, I felt something other than resignation. I felt curious about what came next. The drive to my office gave me time to think. Nick Fowler, 38, senior IT specialist at Morrison & Associates, a mid-sized accounting firm downtown. Not exactly the profile of someone who inspired passionate ultimatums, but there you had it. I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one who fixed computers and paid mortgages and apparently bored my wife into the arms of her college boyfriend. But I was also the one who understood systems, networks, how information flowed from point A to point B, and how to intercept it along the way. My best friend Pete called while I was stuck in traffic on Route 9. "You sound different," he said without preamble. Pete Martinez, 40 years old, retired cop turned private security consultant. He had an ear for voices, could read people like instruction manuals. "Anna gave me an ultimatum this morning." "About the ex? You knew?" Pete sighed. "Brother, everyone knows. She's not exactly subtle. What kind of ultimatum?" I told him. Pete listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I valued about him. Most people wanted to jump in with advice or outrage. Pete just absorbed information and processed it. "So what's option 3? He asked when I finished. "Still working on that. Need help?" "Maybe. Let me do some reconnaissance first." "Reconnaissance?" Pete chuckled. "You make it sound like a military operation." "Isn't it?" That evening, I came home to find Anna in the living room with her friend Tara, heads bent over their phones, wine glasses half empty on the coffee table. They looked up when I walked in, and I caught something in their expressions. Not guilt exactly, but awareness, like they'd been talking about me. "Hey, honey," Anna said, her voice artificially bright. "How was work?" "Same as always. Computers broken, people panicking, me fixing everything." I looked at Tara, who was studying her wine glass with sudden intensity. "Hi, Tara." "Hi, Nick." She still wouldn't meet my eyes. I went to the kitchen and opened a beer. listening to their conversation resume in hushed tones. Anna's voice carried better than she thought it did, especially when she'd been drinking. "It told you he'd be weird about it. Not like you're asking for much. Dean understands me in ways Nick never—" I took my beer upstairs to my home office and fired up my computer. Time for some research. Dean Delacroix, 37, currently unemployed but listing himself as a consultant on LinkedIn. Previous jobs included sales associate at 3 different car dealerships, brief stint as a real estate agent, and something vague involving import-export that lasted 6 months. His Facebook profile was a masterclass in carefully curated success, expensive restaurants, designer clothes, a leased BMW he posed with like he owned it. But the details told a different story. The same shirt appeared in photos months apart. The restaurant shots were always taken from angles that hid the rest of the dining room. The BMW had different license plates and different photos, suggesting multiple test drives rather than ownership. Dean Delacroix was a fraud, a small-time con man trading on charm and the willingness of others to believe his carefully constructed image. The question was, what did he want with Anna? I spent the next 3 days watching and listening. Anna thought I was sulking, accepting her ultimatum with wounded silence. In reality, I was gathering intelligence. Anna's phone habits had changed over the past few months. She used to leave it lying around, face up, notifications visible. Now it was always face down, always within arm's reach, always requiring her full attention when it buzzed. She'd developed a tell when she was texting Dean, a slight smile, like she was sharing a private joke. Her spending had changed too. Cash withdrawals that didn't match her usual patterns. New clothes she claimed were on sale, but still had full-price tags hidden in her closet. Expensive dinners she attributed to work functions, except I knew her company's entertainment budget had been cut 6 months ago. On Friday night, Anna announced she was going out with the girls. She spent an hour getting ready, choosing an outfit that was definitely not intended for Tara and her usual crowd. When she kissed me goodbye, she smelled like the perfume I'd bought her for Christmas, the one she claimed was too fancy for every day. After she left, I called Pete. "Feel like doing some surveillance?" "Now you're talking. Where are we going?" "The Riverside Hotel, bar area. Anna's supposed to be having girls' night, but I'm betting she's meeting someone else." Pete picked me up in his unmarked sedan, a habit left over from his police days. We parked across from the hotel with a clear view of the entrance and settled in to wait. "There," Pete said after 20 minutes. Blue dress coming out of the parking garage. Anna walked into the hotel like she owned the place, confident and purposeful. She wasn't dressed for a casual evening with female friends. She was dressed for seduction. "Want to go in?" Pete asked. "Not yet. Let's see who else shows up." We didn't have to wait long. Dean arrived 10 minutes later in the BMW I'd seen in his photos, pulling up to the valet stand like money was no object. He was exactly what I'd expected from his pictures: tall, well-dressed, handsome in that generic way that suggested expensive grooming products and regular gym visits. "That him?" "That's him. Looks like a used car salesman." According to LinkedIn, he was. 3 different dealerships. Pete grunted. "Want to go in now?" "No, I want to talk to him when Anna's not around." "Can you find out where he's staying?" Pete made a phone call to someone who owed him a favor. 5 minutes later, he had an address. Extended stay hotel on Route 1. Been there 6 weeks, paying week by week in cash. Cash. Yeah, either he's very privacy conscious or he's got credit problems. My money's on credit problems. We waited another hour, long enough to confirm that Anna and Dean were settled in for the evening, then drove to Dean's hotel. It was the kind of place that rented rooms by the week and didn't ask too many questions, sandwiched between a discount tire shop and a 24-hour diner. "Classy," Pete observed. "Anna thinks he's successful. This doesn't exactly scream success." unless she knows exactly what he is and doesn't care. That possibility hadn't occurred to me, but it made a disturbing kind of sense. Anna worked in HR, which meant she was good at reading people, good at spotting inconsistencies in resumes and references. If she was involved with Dean, she had to know he wasn't what he pretended to be. The question was, what was she getting out of it? Saturday morning, Anna slept late and woke up in an unusually good mood. She made pancakes, something she hadn't done in months, and chatted about her fun night with the girls while carefully avoiding any specific details. I played along, asking generic questions about Tara and the other women she claimed to have seen. Anna's answers were vague but confident, the kind of responses someone gives when they've prepared for the conversation in advance. After breakfast, while Anna was in the shower, I checked her purse. She was usually careful about her phone, but her wallet was less closely guarded. Tucked behind her credit cards was a business card for something called Delacroix Consulting Services, with Dean's name and a phone number I didn't recognize. I photographed the card and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Delacroix Consulting Services didn't exist, at least not in any official capacity. No business license, no website, no listings in any professional directories. The phone number went to a generic voicemail, with Dean's voice promising to return calls within 24 hours. But the card itself was expensive. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, the kind of thing that cost real money to print. Someone was investing in Dean's image, and I was beginning to suspect that someone was my wife. Sunday afternoon, while Anna was at what she claimed was a yoga class, I called the number on Dean's business card. Delacroix Consulting, Dean answered on the third ring, his voice smooth and professional. Hi, I got your name from a mutual friend. I'm looking for some help with a business situation. Of course. What kind of situation are we talking about? It's complicated. I'd rather discuss it in person. Are you free for lunch tomorrow? Let me check my schedule. I heard paper rustling, though it was probably for show. I could do Monday at 1. Do you know Castellanos on Elm Street? I'll find it. How will I recognize you? I'll be wearing a navy suit, probably at the bar. And you are? David Chen, I said, using the first fake name that came to mind. Thanks, Dean. I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up and immediately called Pete. I need you to do me a favor. Can you run a background check on Dean Delacroix? Real name, criminal history, financial records, the works? That's not exactly a favor, brother. That's a full investigation. I'll pay your usual rate. It's not about the money. You sure you want to go down this road? Once you know something, you can't unknow it. I thought about Anna making pancakes that morning, humming while she cooked, happier than she'd been in months. Happy because of another man. Happy because of secrets she was keeping from me. I'm sure. Give me 24 hours. Monday at noon, I took a long lunch and drove to Castellanos. It was the kind of place that catered to business meetings, quiet booths, attentive service, prices high enough to discourage casual diners. Dean was exactly where he'd said he'd be, at the bar, navy suit impeccable, nursing what looked like an expensive scotch. I studied him for a moment before approaching. Up close, he was older than his photo suggested, with lines around his eyes that good lighting had hidden. His suit was well-tailored but showed signs of wear, slightly shiny at the elbows, a small stain on the left cuff that had been carefully cleaned but not entirely removed. Dean, David Chen. I extended my hand. His handshake was firm, practiced, the grip of someone who understood the importance of first impressions. David, good to meet you. What are you drinking? Whatever you're having. He signaled the bartender and ordered 2 scotches, top shelf, the kind that cost $20 a glass. Either he was trying to impress me, or he was spending someone else's money. So, he said once our drinks arrived, what kind of business situation brings you to me? I'd prepared for this question, crafted a story that would draw him out without revealing too much about myself. I'm in a partnership that's not working out. My partner is... Let's say she's not contributing what she promised, but she's making it difficult for me to dissolve the arrangement cleanly. Dean nodded sympathetically. Partnerships can be tricky, especially when personal relationships are involved. Is this your wife? Business partner, but there are personal complications. There always are. Dean took a sip of his scotch and leaned back, settling into his role as confidant. The thing about partnerships, David, is that they're only as strong as the trust between the parties. Once that trust is broken, the whole structure becomes unstable. Exactly. But she's got leverage, information she could use to damage my reputation if I try to cut her out. Ah. Dean's eyes lit up with understanding. Blackmail, that's a delicate situation. You sound like you've dealt with this kind of thing before. I've been in consulting for a long time. You see patterns. He paused, studying me over his glass. Can I ask how you got my name? A mutual friend. Anna Fowler. She said you were very good at handling complicated situations. The change in Dean's expression was subtle, but unmistakable. Surprise followed quickly by wariness. He set down his scotch and gave me a closer look, reassessing. Anna Fowler, he repeated carefully. You do know her, right? She works in HR at Consolidated Insurance. Married, lives over on Maple Street. I know Anna. His voice had lost its smooth confidence. How exactly do you know her? We've worked together on a few projects. She mentioned you helped her with a similar partnership problem a few months ago. Dean was quiet for a long moment, thinking. I could almost see him working through the possibilities, trying to figure out how much I knew and how much danger I represented. David, he said finally, I think there might be some confusion here. Anna and our relationship is more personal than professional. Personal how? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We have history. College sweethearts, you might say. We've been reconnecting recently. Reconnecting. I nodded like this was perfectly normal. That's nice. Old flames and all that. Something like that. Dean relaxed slightly, apparently deciding I wasn't a threat. But I'm not sure I can help you with your partnership problem. My relationship with Anna is, well, it's complicated enough without bringing business into it. I understand. But she spoke very highly of your problem-solving skills. Said you were creative, resourceful, good at finding solutions other people miss. Dean preened slightly at the compliment. Anna always was perceptive. We make a good team. Even with her being married. Especially because she's married. The words slipped out before he could stop them, and I saw him immediately regret the admission. How so? Dean finished his scotch in one swallow and signaled for another. Her husband is, let's say, he's not the most attentive partner. Anna has needs that aren't being met. Financial needs? Among others. Dean was warming up now, probably encouraged by the alcohol and what he perceived as a sympathetic audience. Anna's very smart, very ambitious. She's wasted in that marriage, tied to a man who doesn't appreciate what he has. Sounds like you appreciate her. I do. Anna and I understand each other. We both know what it's like to have potential that other people don't recognize. What kind of potential? Dean leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Anna has access to information most people can only dream of. Employee records, financial data, personal details about hundreds of people. In the right hands, that information could be very valuable. My blood went cold, but I kept my expression neutral. Valuable how? Think about it. Anna knows who's getting divorced, who's having financial problems, who's cheating on their spouse. She knows social security numbers, addresses, family details. She knows which employees are vulnerable and which ones have something to hide. And you help her, what? Monetize this information? Dean sat back, suddenly realizing he'd said too much. I think I've been indiscreet. This conversation is getting too specific. I'm not wearing a wire, Dean. I'm just trying to understand how you work. Anna said you were good at what you do. What exactly did Anna tell you about me? I took a gamble. She said you helped her with a situation involving her neighbor. Something about a fake charity? Dean's face went white. She told you about Mrs. Brown? Bingo. I had no idea who Mrs. Brown was, but Dean had just confirmed that Anna was running cons, and he was involved. She mentioned it in passing, said it was brilliant, the way you set it up. That wasn't supposed to. Anna said she'd keep that quiet. She did. She only mentioned it because she was impressed with your creativity. Dean finished his second scotch and checked his watch. I should go. This conversation has gotten a little too detailed for my comfort. Of course. But Dean, if I did need help with my partnership problem, hypothetically, what would something like that cost? He paused, clearly torn between caution and greed. Hypothetically, it would depend on the complexity. Simple intimidation, maybe a few thousand. If documentation needed to be adjusted, or if the situation required ongoing management, it could be significantly more. How much more? 10, 15,000, maybe 20 if it was particularly delicate. I nodded like this was a reasonable price range. Good to know. Thanks for your time, Dean. David. He stood up and straightened his jacket. This conversation stays between us, right? Of course. Professional discretion. I watched him leave, then sat at the bar for another 10 minutes, processing what I'd learned. Anna wasn't just cheating on me. She was using her position at work to run cons, stealing personal information and using it to target vulnerable people. Dean was her partner, probably handling the actual scams while Anna provided the intelligence. Mrs. Brown. I knew that name. She was our elderly neighbor, the one who'd been so upset a few months ago about losing money to a fake charity. Anna had been very sympathetic, very supportive, even helped Mrs. Brown report the fraud to the police. Anna had comforted the woman she'd helped steal from. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. Got your background check. You're not going to like it. I paid for the drinks and drove to Pete's office, a small space above a bail bondsman in the old part of downtown. Pete was waiting with a thick folder and a grim expression. Dean Delacroix, he said without preamble. Real name Dean DeLuca. Changed it legally 3 years ago, probably because the old name had too much baggage attached. He opened the folder and spread out the contents. Police reports, court documents, credit reports, employment records. 2 arrests for fraud, 1 conviction. Served 18 months in county, got out 2 years ago. Since then, he's been running small-time cons, fake charities, romance scams, identity theft. Nothing big enough to attract federal attention, but enough to make a living. Romance scams? His specialty. Targets middle-aged women, usually married, usually unhappy. Builds emotional connections, then starts asking for money. Small amounts at first, then bigger. By the time they realize what's happening, he's moved on to the next mark. I stared at the documents, pieces clicking into place. Anna's not his partner. She's his mark. That's what I thought at first, but look at this. Pete pulled out a bank statement. This is from an account in Anna's name, opened 6 months ago. Look at the deposit pattern. The deposits were irregular but substantial. 3,000 here, 5,000 there, never the same amount twice. All cash deposits, all made at different branch locations. That's not the pattern of someone being scammed, Pete continued. That's the pattern of someone laundering money from multiple sources. She's not the victim, she's the accomplice. Looks like it. And Nick? There's something else. Pete pulled out another document, this one with my name at the top. It was a credit report, but not one I'd authorized. Someone's been checking your credit, your employment history, your financial records, 3 different inquiries in the past month, all from sources I can't trace. They're researching me. Like you're the next mark. Pete leaned back in his chair. Brother, I think your wife and her boyfriend are planning to clean you out. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through possibilities and implications. Anna wasn't just cheating on me. She was actively plotting against me, using her access to personal information to run cons, stealing from neighbors and co-workers, and now apparently planning to make me her next victim. The house was empty when I arrived. Anna was still at her fake yoga class, probably meeting with Dean to plan their next move. I went to my office and started making lists, documenting everything I knew, everything I suspected, everything I could prove. Anna came home at 6, glowing with post-workout energy that had nothing to do with exercise. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek with lips that had probably been on Dean an hour earlier. "Productive," I said. "I had lunch with an interesting guy, Dean something. Said he knew you." Anna froze, her hand halfway to the refrigerator door. "Dean?" "Yeah, tall guy, drives a BMW. Said you two had history." "Where did you meet him?" "Castellanos. He was there with some business associates." I watched her face carefully. Seemed like a nice guy, very charming. "What did you talk about?" "Business, mostly. He's in consulting. Said you'd mentioned me to him." Anna's smile was strained. "I might have mentioned you in passing. We've run into each other a few times recently." "Run into each other?" "You know how it is. Small town, familiar faces." "Right." I opened a beer and sat down at the kitchen table. He seemed to know a lot about our neighborhood, even mentioned Mrs. Brown. The color drained from Anna's face. "Mrs. Brown?" "Yeah. Something about a charity scam she fell for. Dean seemed very knowledgeable about the whole situation." Anna sat down across from me, her hands trembling slightly. "Nick, what exactly did Dean tell you?" "Nothing specific. Just that he felt bad for her, losing money like that. Said it was a shame how these scammers target elderly people." "That's all?" "That's all." I took a long drink of my beer, letting the silence stretch. "Why? Is there something else I should know?" "No, of course not. I don't like the idea of people gossiping about Mrs. Brown's situation. She's been through enough." "You're right. It's none of our business." I stood up and headed for the stairs. "I'm going to work on some projects. What do you want to do for dinner?" "I'll figure something out." I spent the evening in my office, but I wasn't working on projects. I was planning. Anna and Dean thought they were running a con on me, but they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd underestimated their mark. By midnight, I had a strategy. Tuesday morning, I called in sick to work and drove to Consolidated Insurance. Anna's office was on the 3rd floor, but I wasn't there to see her. I was there to see her boss, Gerald Grady, the HR director who'd hired Anna 5 years earlier. "Mr. Grady, my name is Nick Fowler. I'm Anna's husband." Grady was a thin, nervous man in his 50s, the kind of person who'd probably never broken a rule in his life. He looked uncomfortable the moment I mentioned Anna's name. "Is everything all right? Anna's not sick, is she?" "No, she's fine. I'm here about a different matter. I have reason to believe Anna might be misusing her access to employee records." Grady's face went pale. "That's a very serious accusation, Mr. Fowler." "I know, and I wouldn't make it lightly." I pulled out a folder containing printouts of Dean's criminal record, the bank statements Pete had obtained, and photos I'd taken of Anna meeting with Dean. "I think she's been selling personal information to this man, who's been using it to target employees and their families for fraud." Grady looked through the documents, his expression growing more alarmed with each page. This is extremely concerning. If what you're suggesting is true, Anna could face criminal charges. The company could face massive liability." "I understand. I'm not here to destroy my wife's career, Mr. Grady. I'm here because I think she's in over her head with a dangerous person, and innocent people are getting hurt." "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to quietly audit Anna's computer access, her file downloads, her database queries. I think you'll find a pattern of unauthorized access to employee records, particularly records of people who've been targeted by scams in the past few months." Grady was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with the implications. "Mr. Fowler, if I launch an investigation and we find evidence of wrongdoing, I'll have no choice but to terminate Anna's employment and report the matter to law enforcement." "I understand." "And you're willing to accept that outcome?" I thought about Anna making pancakes, humming happily while she planned my financial destruction. I thought about Mrs. Brown, crying on her porch after losing her savings to a fake charity. I thought about all the other victims Anna and Dean had targeted, people whose only crime was trusting the wrong person. "I'm willing to accept whatever outcome the evidence supports." Grady nodded slowly. "I'll need a few days to conduct the audit discreetly. Can you be reached at this number if I need to discuss anything?" "Any time, day or night." I left Consolidated Insurance feeling lighter than I had in months. The wheels were in motion. Now I just had to wait and watch. Anna came home that evening in a foul mood, complaining about system problems at work, IT issues that were slowing down her access to employee records. I made sympathetic noises while mentally thanking Grady for his quick action. "It's so frustrating," Anna said, pouring herself a large glass of wine. "I have deadlines, and I can't get the information I need." "I'm sure they'll fix it soon." "They better. Some of us have important work to do." "Important work, like stealing personal information to sell to her criminal boyfriend." Wednesday evening, Pete called with more intelligence. "I've been watching Dean," he said. "Interesting guy. Pays for everything in cash, but he's not exactly living like a successful consultant. That hotel room, $60 a night. His meals come from fast food places and convenience stores. The BMW, it's a rental, probably stolen credit card." "So where's the money going?" "That's the interesting part. I followed him to a storage unit yesterday. Stayed there for about an hour, came out with a different set of clothes and a different attitude, more confident, more polished. He's storing his conman supplies. That's my guess. Fake IDs, business cards, props for whatever scam he's running. But here's the really interesting part. Anna was there too." My stomach clenched. "At the storage unit?" "Tuesday afternoon, right after work. Stayed about 30 minutes, came out carrying a small box. Whatever they're planning, they're gearing up for it." "Any idea what's in the box?" "Not yet, but I'm working on it." Thursday morning, Grady called. "Mr. Fowler, we need to talk. Can you come in this afternoon?" "I'll be there." Grady's office felt smaller than it had on Tuesday, cramped and airless. He looked like he hadn't slept, his tie askew, papers scattered across his desk. "We found it," he said without preamble. "Anna's been accessing employee records she has no business looking at. Social security numbers, home addresses, financial information, medical records. The pattern goes back 6 months." "How bad is it?" "Bad. She's accessed records for over 200 employees, including several who've reported being victims of fraud in recent months. The correlation is too strong to be coincidental." Grady pulled out a thick printout. "But that's not the worst part. Yesterday, she tried to access your employment records, your salary information, your emergency contacts. When the system blocked her, we'd flagged her access by then. She tried 3 different workarounds. She was researching me. It looks that way. Mr. Fowler, I have to ask, are you in any physical danger from your wife?" The question caught me off guard. "Physical danger? No, I don't think so. Why?" "Because yesterday afternoon, after her system access was blocked, Anna submitted a request to update your emergency contact information. She wanted to remove your sister and add Dean DeLuca as your primary contact." The room seemed to tilt. "Dean DeLuca. The same man from the criminal records you showed me. If something happened to you, if you were incapacitated or, worse, Dean would be the person the hospital called, the person who'd make decisions about your care." I sat back in my chair, the implications washing over me. Anna wasn't just planning to steal my money. She was planning something much worse. "Mr. Grady, what's your company's policy on reporting suspected criminal activity?" We're required to report it to law enforcement within 24 hours of confirmation. He glanced at his watch, which means I have about 18 hours to decide whether what we've found constitutes confirmation. And what would constitute confirmation? Direct evidence that employee information was used in the commission of a crime. Right now, we have suspicious access patterns and correlation with reported fraud, but no smoking gun. I thought about Mrs. Brown, about the fake charity scam that had taken her savings. What if I could provide that smoking gun? What do you have in mind? Give me until tomorrow morning. I think I can get you the evidence you need. That evening, I called Mrs. Brown and asked if I could come over to discuss something important. She lived 3 houses down from us, a widow in her 70s who'd been part of the neighborhood for 40 years. Nick, dear, of course. Is everything all right? Mrs. Brown's living room was exactly what you'd expect from a woman of her generation. Floral patterns, family photos, the lingering scent of lavender and old books. She served tea in china cups and waited patiently while I figured out how to begin. Mrs. Brown, I need to ask you about the charity scam you fell victim to a few months ago. Her face fell. Oh, that. I'd rather not discuss it, dear. It's embarrassing. I understand. But I think the people who scammed you might be planning to hurt other people, and I need your help to stop them. She set down her teacup and studied my face. What kind of help? I need you to tell me exactly what happened, every detail you can remember. Mrs. Brown's story was heartbreaking in its simplicity. A young man had called claiming to represent a charity for disabled veterans. He knew her late husband had been in the army, knew they'd had no children, knew she lived alone. He was polite, respectful, and very knowledgeable about her personal situation. He knew things, she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Things about Harold's service record, about our finances. He said the charity had identified me as someone who might be interested in making a substantial donation in Harold's memory. How substantial? $15,000. He said it would fund a wheelchair-accessible van for disabled veterans in our area. She shook her head. I should have known better, but he was so convincing, and he knew so much about us. Did you ever meet him in person? Once. He came by to pick up the check. Handsome young man, very well dressed, drove a nice car. Can you describe him? Mrs. Brown went to her kitchen and returned with a small notebook. I wrote down his license plate number. Harold always told me to do that when strangers came to the house. She handed me the notebook. The license plate number matched the BMW Dean had been driving. Mrs. Brown, this is very important. Did you ever tell anyone about this donation before you made it? Anyone who might have known you were considering it? Well, yes. Anna stopped by the day before, just being neighborly. She asked how I was doing, if I needed anything. I mentioned the charity call, how nice it was that someone was thinking of Harold's service. She was very supportive, said it sounded like a wonderful cause. Anna had known about the scam before it happened. She'd probably set it up, feeding Dean information about Mrs. Brown's background and financial situation, then playing the supportive neighbor when the con was complete. Mrs. Brown, would you be willing to tell this story to the police? If it would help other people, yes. But Nick, why are you asking about this? What does it have to do with you? I took a deep breath. I think Anna was involved in scamming you. I think she gave the scammer your personal information. Mrs. Brown stared at me for a long moment, then slowly shook her head. Anna. But she was so kind to me afterward. She helped me report it to the police. The perfect cover. Who would suspect someone who was helping the victim? But why would she do such a thing? Money, and because she could. Friday morning, I met with Grady and a detective from the fraud division. Mrs. Brown's testimony, combined with the evidence of Anna's unauthorized data access, was enough to constitute probable cause. We'll need to arrest her at work, Detective Morrison said. Can you arrange to have her in the office this afternoon? She'll be here, Grady confirmed. What about the boyfriend? We'll pick him up simultaneously. Don't want to give either of them a chance to run or destroy evidence. I went home to wait. Anna was already gone, off to what would be her last day at Consolidated Insurance. I sat in my kitchen, drinking coffee and thinking about the past few months, about all the signs I'd missed or chosen to ignore. My phone rang at 2:30 p.m. Anna, calling from the police station. "Nick, you have to help me. There's been a mistake. They think I stole information from work, but I never—" "Anna, it's all a misunderstanding. My lawyer says—" "Anna, stop." She fell silent, perhaps hearing something in my voice that finally got through to her. "I know about Dean," I said. "I know about the scams, the stolen data, Mrs. Brown, all of it." Silence on the other end of the line. "I know you were planning to make me your next victim. I know about the storage unit, the fake emergency contact forms, the credit checks. I know everything. Nick, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. You made your choice when you gave me that ultimatum. You said I could accept Dean in your life or leave. You never considered option 3. What was option 3? Fighting back." I hung up the phone and sat in the quiet kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of our life together. Wedding photos on the refrigerator, her coffee mug in the sink, the morning paper folded to the crossword puzzle she never finished. Pete arrived an hour later with a bottle of good scotch and a satisfied expression. "Dean tried to run," he said, settling into Anna's usual chair. "Made it about 6 blocks before they caught him. Had a suitcase full of fake IDs and $20,000 in cash." $20,000? Apparently your wife was very good at her job. They found evidence of at least 15 separate cons over the past 6 months, all targeting people whose information Anna had accessed. Pete poured 2 glasses of scotch and handed me one. "So what now?" "Now I start over." "Any regrets?" I thought about Anna in her jail cell, probably still trying to figure out how her perfect plan had gone so wrong. I thought about Dean, the small-time con man who'd thought he'd found the perfect partner, only to discover that some partnerships are more dangerous than others. "She gave me an ultimatum," I said. "Accept her betrayal or walk away. She never imagined I'd choose to destroy her instead." Pete raised his glass. "To option 3. To option 3. We drank in comfortable silence as the sun set on the end of my marriage and the beginning of whatever came next. Anna had been right about one thing. There are always 3 options in any situation. She'd just been too arrogant to consider the possibility that I'd find the 3rd one before she could finish destroying me. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, as if a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had been lifted. Tomorrow I'd start the divorce proceedings, sell the house, maybe take that job offer in Seattle I'd been considering. Tonight I'd drink good scotch with my best friend and celebrate the fact that sometimes the underdog wins. Anna had wanted to keep Dean in her life. Now they'd have plenty of time together in adjacent prison cells, assuming they ended up in the same facility. It wasn't the outcome she'd planned, but it was the outcome she'd earned. Option 3 had turned out to be the best choice after all.